Next, on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
And now, not only am I present for my life, I'm not skipping moments, but I'm actually building a toolkit inside of resources. I'm strengthening a way of being that is going to be a resource for all kinds of situations, to be patient, to be generous, to be loving, to be compassionate, to be determined. And so anything can become a contemplative practice if you want it to be and you're willing to give it some more attention, and also if you learn the skill of how to get the most out of the things we're doing in life.
Oh, Toto, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Well, except maybe the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community, from the category Things We Need a Little Bit More of in Our Lives, today we welcome back all-around nice guy, Oren Jay Sofer. Oren is an internationally recognized meditation and communication teacher. His latest book, Your Heart Was Made for This, Contemplative Practices to Meet a World in Crisis with Courage, Integrity, and Love, is available on his site and on Amazon. He's number 781 on your Nice Guys episode playbook way back in November of 2018, but number one in our hearts. Let's re-explore Oren's journey, insights on mindful communication. Excited to have him back. Welcome, Oren, to the Nice Guys.
Thanks so much, Doug. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here, my friend. And I think I was connected to you way back in maybe 2017 or 2018 when I was reading Dan Harris's book, 10% Happier, and then went to his podcast. And then I think at that point you were on his site, or you were referenced from his site. And
yeah. We did a conversation for his show.
This was the most relaxing, wonderful, soothing voice that you had. And I'm like, I just want to talk to you. I just want you to read me the phone book. So that's a good starting point. Where did you learn the disposition of just doesn't seem like anything is stressed or worried? And I know that sometimes can be a challenge, but where did you learn that? Who inspired you or motivated you for that?
Well, let's start by being real, which is just as important as being nice in my mind. I get stressed for sure, like anyone else. And I certainly was really stressed out when I was younger. I had a lot of anxiety as a teenager, social anxiety, a lot of angst about my life and what am I doing. And so I started meditating when I was 19, and it really changed my life. It's been a long journey. I've been doing it for about 25 years now. But I think the disposition I have today of being able to be a little bit more grounded, centered, calming presence, it comes from that practice of so many years of learning how to be with my own mind and my own feelings. And it's a skill that I think is essential for all of us in our lives, whether we're thinking about our workplace, our family, our social community, our broader community. Because the world inside our head and our hearts is often what's driving what's happening around us in our conversations and relationships. And when we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, it's really difficult to achieve our goals and have good relationships with others.
I go back to the original time that I actually sat with myself and did what I had a term that I had never heard before, mindfulness meditation, just focusing on your breath and understanding that other thoughts were going to enter in, but just come back to your breath. And I was so amazed, number one, at how hard that was just to do that when you've never practiced that before. And secondly, the length of time by which, when you finally understand how to do mindfulness meditation, the impact positively that it can have on your life, just literally sitting in your own breath, just a few minutes a day.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the impact that things like meditation can have in your life, specifically meditation can have in your life, even just a few moments of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the points I like to make is that our mind is sort of like the unseen hand behind so much in our life. It's kind of like the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. Everything that we experience, everything that we feel, see, think, touch, or hear is filtered through our mind, through our perceptions, through our history, through our interpretations. And so it's like, wearing glasses that are cloudy and dirty. And, if you put on a pair of glasses that are not clean, everything's going to look slightly distorted or slightly blurred. And our mind, which for me and traditions that practice meditation and contemplation, the mind and the heart are not separate. There's this whole inner life. Our inner state colors our experience of the world. So, we all experience this every day. If you got a bad night's sleep, you got a lot on your plate, you're feeling stressed out and agitated, little things bug you. You walk through the day, it might be sunny out, but you still feel kind of tense and tight inside. Whereas if we feel well rested, we had a good weekend, got something to look forward to, even if the weather is gloomy or someone says something to you that's slightly annoying, you just let it roll off your back. You're like, yeah, whatever, it's all right. So do we take care of our inner life? We bathe our body regularly, we brush our teeth every day. Do we know how to clean our heart and our mind so that, as Aldous Huxley said, the doors of perception are open and clean, and we're actually experiencing life accurately and also receiving the richness of the world that we live in, and then having access to all of our inner resources to whatever the task at hand is. Again, whether it's being present and connecting with our family, diving into a project at work, leading a meeting, we need full access to the information coming to us from the world around us and our own inner resources. So meditation is one way of doing that. And my new book, which we were chatting about just before we started the conversation here, is much broader. So in the subtitle, I have contemplative practice. What does that even mean? The contemplative practice is a much broader area than meditation. It's anything that helps us to step back and reflect, that strengthens awareness, that connects us with a sense of meaning or purpose or value. And these kinds of activities that give us some perspective and deepen our connection with ourselves and what's important in life, this is a kind of medicine for our world and our times today, where we are so stressed out, overwhelmed, where there's so much difficult information we're processing on a daily basis. We need something to attend to and cleanse the doors of perception in our inner life. So this is some of the framing of what meditation and more broadly contemplative practice can do for us. So we can get into that a little more, talk about what does contemplative practice even mean, and what is it if it's not meditation?
I definitely want to do that, because there definitely sounds like, to me, from your defining it, there are some differences between meditation and contemplative practices. So I definitely want to talk about that. I want to start, though, if we could, because you talk in your book about we live in this world of distraction. And I want to contrast that for a moment and talk about attention and how we can give more of that to our life in this distracted state that we all seem to live in. How do you do that? How do you get beyond the distraction?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to recognize one of the most basic and fundamental skills we are all endowed with when it comes to attention, the mind, the inner life. And this is the skill, the capacity to choose where we put our attention. It's something we each do every day, all the time, but we overlook it. We don't notice it. So right now, you and I and folks listening, you're hearing my voice. So take a moment and just look around and notice what's around you visually. So for that moment of looking, you just change the channel, right? You focus your attention on a different sensory field. So we're doing this all the time, not just from one sensory field to another, but even within a sensory field, So you're looking around, you see all the different images, and then you focus on one of them. So what has happened is that our attention has become co-opted by advertising, the media, technology. Is called the attention economy. I'm sure you've had guests on your show talking about this, right? So there's profit there's a potential for profit when people can control our attention, when they can attract it and retain it. And they can also influence our behavior. They can get us to do things like buy something or vote in a certain way. So it's a very important, profitable area that people are constantly trying to control our attention. So the first thing is recognizing that we have the innate power to choose where we place our attention. The second is developing the interest and the desire to reclaim our attention, to actually own it, because it's a priceless resource. Where does our attention go all day? Internally, what are we thinking about? Are we ruminating on the things that we don't like and the things that stress us out? Are we dwelling on aspects of our personality that we don't like? Are we focusing on things we can't control, feeling worried and helpless? Externally, are we frittering our time and our attention away by disappearing into screens and algorithms? Or are we choosing the kinds of activities we are engaging with, whether it's work or play or exercise? So it's just starting to try to make more conscious choices and pay attention to where's my attention going. One of the other key things we start to realize as we get curious about, what do I do with my attention all day long? What am I thinking about, focusing on doing? Is that we're always practicing something. Mm-hmm. So our minds are learning organisms. They are incredibly impressionable. And we know from modern neuroscience that the function and even structure of the brain can change, called neuroplasticity, neurons that fire together, wire together. The more you do anything, the better you get at it. So if every day we practice living in a way that is agitated, stressed, stingy, irritated, guess what? We're going to get really good at feeling agitated, stingy, stressed. Whereas if we practice connecting our attention, say, with things that we appreciate, we're going to get better at feeling grateful. If we practice connecting our attention with certain values or capacities that we cherish, like patience, kindness, generosity, we're going to get really good at being kind and patient and generous. So we start recognizing that we actually have some choice, get curious about where our attention is going, and then start making an effort to place our attention on the things that are important to us externally, and also on the way of being that we want to cultivate internally. We can start to steer the ship in a different direction.
When I hear the word contemplation, I almost think like it's an active decision, this or that. When I hear the word meditation, I feel like I'm surrendering and forgiving and allowing. Is there, do you differentiate the two? I mean, how do you differentiate the two?
Yeah. So the analogy that I like to offer for what is the difference, and then to give a few examples, is the analogy is it's like the difference between, say, exercise and running. Not everyone likes to run. It's not even good for everybody's body, depending on your knees and your spine and your age. But we all need to exercise. We all need to move. Our bodies are designed to move. The lymph doesn't work properly. We don't get all kinds of benefits, including better sleep, if we're not moving and exercising enough. So in the same way, meditation is just one form of contemplative practice. Not everyone likes to meditate. Not everyone wants to meditate. There may be times in our life where meditation isn't helpful because we're, going through really intense grief, or there are other really strong emotions present. So there are many ways, though, to attend to and take care of our heart and our mind. And this is what contemplative practice is about. It's ultimately about building inner resources. So anything can be a contemplative practice. It's not so much about the activity as it is about the quality of attention and the kind of intention we bring to it. So some things lend themselves very directly to being a contemplative practice, again, which is something that gives us perspective, it cultivates awareness, it reminds us of what's important to us in life. So, doing something like, I don't know, yoga or Tai Chi, or maybe reading poetry or taking a walk through the woods. These are things that very naturally lend themselves to a more contemplative way of being, right? But, so one of the things that has happened in my life since 6 years ago when we talked is that I'm a father now.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. I have a 20-month-old toddler and another one on the way. And I change a lot of diapers. I do a lot of dishes.
Yep.
So there are all of these activities I do every day that can seem, very kind of meaningless or rote. But if I bring a kind of caring and present attention to it, and if I set the intention to use this activity, not just to get it done, just like, okay, get through the dishes and rush through it and get the lunch ready for tomorrow, but actually, no, I'm not only am I doing something for my family and for the people I love, but this is my life. Washing these dishes, changing this diaper. This is the only time I have to be alive. I'm not going to get this time back. So if I remember that, two things become possible. Number one, first, I'm start to relax into the activity and just be present and not miss my life. But another very important thing happens that is kind of at the core of understanding how the heart and the mind work, which is that I begin to have the possibility of actually rewiring the way my brain works, of reprogramming my heart. And this is what I was talking about before. We're always practicing something. So if I'm, say, doing the dishes and tidying the kitchen, and I'm, that old story of why do I have to do everything and no one else does enough, and I'm kind of grumbling inside. Okay, that comes up right now. If I'm mindful, if I'm paying attention, I'm aware, I notice it. I'm like, oh gosh, there's that grumpy voice. Now I have a choice. I can feed that grumpiness. I can live in that world of I'm a grumpy person and no one does anything right and I have to do everything. Or I kind of pause and go, well, that's not actually true. My wife does a lot. And I begin to find another way of being that's possible. I can do this with patience. I can do this with some generosity. I want to do this. I like having a clean kitchen. I like contributing. And now, not only am I present for my life, I'm not skipping moments, but I'm actually building a toolkit inside of resources. I'm strengthening a way of being that is going to be a resource for all kinds of situations, to be patient, to be generous, to be loving, to be compassionate, to be determined. And so I kind of forgot where we even started with. So contemplative practice. So
great though. That's great.
So anything can become a contemplative practice if you want it to be and you're willing to give it some more attention, and also if you learn the skill of how to get the most out of the things we're doing in life.
It seems like if anything rattles one's cage, just your perspective on how you're allowing it to rattle your cage, you've made a decision to allow it to rattle your cage. Nobody is coming into your head and saying, this is how you need to think about this. So
yeah,
whether you're doing the dishes, cleaning up a mess that's outside that, or a dog pooped on your lawn, and you could be grateful for the fact that you have a lawn for a dog to poop on.
Yeah.
So it is amazing. It is all about your perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's, of course, there are realities, and, we're cleaning up a mess that someone else made at work, right? They didn't do the task the way we agreed on or something. We might feel frustrated about that. And then there too, there's a choice. We've got to differentiate between what our needs are and getting worked up over something. So I can be clear about what my needs are, and, we want this to run more smoothly and get on the same page and have accountability when things don't go as planned. But do I need to waste my energy feeling irritated and angry and spinning about it for the rest of the day? That's a choice I make.
You've written a couple books, I think, and you have a whole bunch of other programs too, a bunch of audio programs and instruction and course, and of course all of the things that you've done online. What was the onus to put this book together? Where did your other works leave off where you felt like this one, it's time to pick up this pen and write this book?
Yeah. There's a few different reasons. So the first reason why I wrote this book, Your Heart Was Made for This, started in 2020 when the pandemic hit and we were all cooped up inside and freaked out. And it was a nuts year. George Floyd was murdered. We had this devastating wildfires out west. So climate change kind of came into everyone's awareness in a really big way, was just wanting to give people some more concrete inner resources to feel grounded amidst so much chaos and change and overwhelm. That was the first impetus. And the second, in terms of my previous work on communication, my first book, Say What You Mean, is really focused on communication skills and bringing mindfulness as a turnkey to opening up more possibilities in our relationships and communication. After teaching thousands of people to communicate better through my online courses and my book and programs, I started to recognize that mindfulness is important, but there are a lot of other skills that we need to have better conversations. We need to be patient. We need balance. We need some resolve and energy. We need concentration. We need perspective. And so I wanted to give people a little bit of a roadmap to developing the whole range of personal traits and qualities that can improve our relationships and our lives, not just the mindfulness piece. And then there's a third piece that's quite personal around why I wrote the book, which was after I started writing it, we got pregnant. And contemplating bringing a new being into this world, it sparked a very deep question in my heart about how I've spent my life. And I've given so much of my life to meditation. And I wanted to engage more fully with this question of how do these skills of reflection and, tending to the mind and the heart, how do these relate to the very real precarious problems we are facing as a species on our planet in so many different domains? And what can I do that's going to contribute to future generations with these skills? And so that's another thread that runs through the book, is really starting to try to make connections between how we take care of our heart and mind and our ability to make a positive difference in the world.
You've been teaching, practicing, sharing for decades. At a time when you probably first started, it wasn't as well received as it is today, not only because of your acumen and people and you're just getting known in the world, but also because I think the world is a little bit more open to these practices than they were a couple of decades ago.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to that for a couple of moments?
Well, what aspect of it? Just a shift, or?
Yeah, I'd love to know when did you see the people more receptive to not just your message, but the message in general, that meditation and mindfulness and this entire world is it can be made better by a simple practice or a practice, whether it's simple or complex.
Right. Yeah. Well, certainly when I started, it wasn't on the map, much at all in terms of the public awareness and the public discourse. So I started in the mid 90s. And I didn't start teaching until the early 2000s, maybe about 10 years into my practice. And it was starting to gain more momentum then. John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction was one of the first things in the 80s that started to get it on the map, because it's starting to get some scientific data behind it. It's a double-edged sword. I would say that even though there's a lot of openness to it, I think there's still vast parts of our society and our world that either don't know or really don't care about meditation or mindfulness or the inner life or the heart. So I still think there's a long way to go in terms of modern civilization and recognizing, I'm not even going to say the value, but the necessity of taking care of our hearts and our minds. That said, I think it's really been in the last 10 years or so that it's shifted here in the West, North America and Europe. And it's quite remarkable how some of the science and some of the people like, Dan Harris, who you mentioned, and others have made it more accessible to people everywhere. And there's also a cost there, because as I said, it's a double-edged sword. Mindfulness, as it has become more available and popular, it is also subject to market forces. And so it has become commodified and
Mm-hmm.
simplified.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think, I'll put it this way, one of the things that I see a lot that I appreciate is people find out about some aspect of meditation or contemplative practice through these popular avenues, like one of the apps like Calm, or the one that I do a lot of work with, 10% Happier. And they get a taste of it and they
Mm-hmm.
see some benefit, and then they go deeper and they actually learn, wow, there's a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not just like feel calm and a little bit better.
That
So
was
I like,
my journey. That was my journey.
yeah,
That's where it all
I
started,
love
through
it.
those apps.
I love it when that happens. At the same time, what I also see, which is quite tragic, is I see people get a taste of it through, a talk show or a podcast or an app. And instead of getting quality instruction and developing a really transformative understanding of it, it just becomes something that reinforces the habits that are already there,
Yeah.
right? So it becomes another mechanism, either of self-judgment, I'm trying to do this thing and I can't and I'm not good enough, or a certain kind of control, where I'm trying to control my mind and push everything down to feel calm. And it ends up just furthering a lot of the same patterns and habits that we already have, instead of actually transforming
Yeah.
us from the inside.
Yeah. Hey, could you be quiet? I'm trying to meditate.
Right, exactly.
It's like, I'm not having a good time at my meditation because I can't
And
seem
it's
to do
your
it right.
fault.
I can't do it right. It's my fault either way. Yeah,
Right.
that's really the challenge. Um, I'd like to talk a moment just about your impact and where you see your impact. Would you rather have impact on a group that already understands the benefits of the practice, or would you rather share with the world and improve that community, or would you rather work with a community that is unknowing and unaware and share with them the benefits, and they see the light, because
Yeah.
both of them could have a major impact. And I don't think they're independent. I don't think they're exclusive. You don't have to
Yeah.
do one or the other. But
Yeah.
where would you rather hit a home run?
Yeah. Oof, that's a great question. I mean, I enjoy doing both. And I do both. I do a lot of work with people who are new, just coming to learn to meditate or communicate better, and introducing them to new ways of thinking and understanding themselves and life. And I love that. And I also love working with people who have already been at it for a while and helping them go deeper and understand themselves. And, I think that the kind making a difference in our world, I don't think it's a linear thing. There are certainly ways we can quantify when we make a difference. But in terms of the kinds of problems we're facing today and the level of complexity and the scope and scale, whether we're thinking about the climate, war, politics, the economy, AI, mean, there's like so much happening so quickly. I think that the ways that we're seeing change are unpredictable, and what's going to have the most impact is hard to tell. Is helping some people have a much deeper shift and experience in their life. What are the effects of that going to be in terms of their work and their inspiration and how they get involved at their workplace, or maybe they change their whole field? Or, as you said, is trying to reach a large number of people and get them to experience and understand themselves and why we're all here in a different way. I don't know. That's why I do both.
Right, right. We can't turn on our computer or get on our smartphone without seeing something about artificial intelligence taking over this or that.
Yeah.
How is it impacting the world that you are in, the field that you share with the rest of the world?
It hasn't quite caught up there yet. I think that, there's some of the like Chat GPT and some of these other large language learning models can get quite good at giving people meditation advice. That's sort of basic,
Mm-hmm.
Or writing a blog post, right, about like how do you develop mindfulness, and
Right.
So, I think there are certain basic levels that we're going to see AI getting involved with in terms of the contemplative path. But at this point, it's not skilled or insightful enough to really tailor guidance to a specific human being and their psyche and what's actually happening. You really need another human with lived experience to do that at this point in time.
Yeah, I can only imagine that it giving us advice that we can follow based upon our own life experience, but it's got to do a lot of learning about us as an individual rather than us as a human race, because that's
Yeah,
too hard to. There's no one size fits all, I think, when it comes to one's practice.
that's right.
I want to talk about the book for just a moment before we wrap up. And obviously, Nice Guy Community, we want to make sure that you have access to the book. We're going to put links in the show notes so that you guys have access to it and directly to Oren's site as well. The structure of the book: 26 qualities, each chapter having a particular structure. What was the logic behind the 26 qualities that you put together in the book?
Yeah, sure. That's fun for me. I had a lot of fun doing that. So the number 26 is a number I picked because if you take 2 weeks for each chapter, you get 52 weeks, which is a whole year. So the idea is the book is meant to be a companion for us and really like a guide for learning how to live a better life, how to have more purpose and meaning and be connected to what's most important to us. And that doesn't happen by sitting down and reading a book in a week, right? The kinds of changes I'm interested in all of us experiencing in our life are changes that are durable and lasting, and that takes time. So each chapter is short. You can read it in 10 or 15 minutes. It's meant to be long enough that there's something to chew on, but short enough that it's digestible and you can fit it into a busy week. And so the idea is you take one quality and you spend 2 weeks with it
Mm-hmm.
and you really explore it and get to know it and look at it. And then you do that for a whole year. So the 26 qualities, a lot of them come out of Buddhist teachings, which is my background, but some of them are other things that I've just seen in my own life and my own practice that are really important, like play or rest or wonder. And even though the book has a certain arc, a certain direction to it, I like to talk about it as the table of contents is a little bit like a menu. So you can open the table of contents and just see like, okay, well, what do I need right now? What's the quality I want to focus on and cultivate more in my life right now? What could I use some more of? And you might see like, oh, geez, I could really use some courage right now, or wow, contentment. Oof, that would be great. Let's jump to the chapter on contentment or rest. So that's the book as a whole and where the 26 comes from. And then within each chapter, again, I wanted it to be practical. So there's a few pages of some content on the quality, giving people something to think about. And then there's specific practices. So every chapter has a reflection, something to think about and turn over, a meditation.
Mm.
If you want to meditate, something you can bring into your meditation, an action, something you can do in your life, and then a section on difficulties. What happens if you hit a roadblock and how do you work with that?
And if I remember correctly, it also has like a companion. Don't you have some meditations that travel along with this book, or was that your last book? I'm trying to remember if that's this book or your last book.
I always do something like that. This book there's just a handful. I recorded 6 meditations, which you can download for free on my website. And once you bought the book, anywhere you get the book, you can have access to those meditations. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks. I couldn't remember if that was this one or the last one. I know you do such a great job with your practice, and love listening your soothing voice as you walk somebody through their practice. So I appreciate that as well. So the book's been out for about 6 months now, isn't that right? And it's
Yep.
gotten a lot of 5-star reviews there on Amazon. So again, Nice Guy Community, you definitely will not be leading down a false path if you get Oren's book. I would encourage you highly to get a copy of this. What's next, Oren? You've accomplished so much. You've done the coursework. You've got books. You've got your own practice. Tell our community what's coming up next in your life.
Doug, I'm really focused on raising my kids.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a real blessing. It's a great challenge. I learn a ton every day. It's humbling. I see all the things that I write and teach and practice right in front of my eyes, and have a wonderful opportunity to keep practicing them. So I'm taking a step back from a lot of my work to show up for my family and my community, and just try to keep learning how I can be involved and make a positive difference.
And there will be many, many, many joyous occasions coming up in the upcoming years. Also, you've got every milestone
Thanks.
event that you have to go through. I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear about
Yeah.
them, read about them, and chat with you
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Doug. And, folks who want to find out more on my website's the best place to do that, orenjaysofer.com. And my main thing right now in terms of work is teaching online. So it's accessible to everyone. So I have events, courses, meditations available, and would love to connect with folks if they want to learn more.
All right. Well, Oren, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your expertise and your message and inspiration with our community today. Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure, Doug.
Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the power of a really solid practice. Special thanks to our guest, Oren Jay Sofer. All of his information will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the nice guys. That's their story, and they're sticking to it.